Hey guys, in today's video we're going to look at the ONNAIS wall-mounted gun lock. What you see here is the gun lock. This is the gun lock and then the wall mount. Before we go ahead and dive into this, and it won't be an open box, I'll go through a few of the specs and just go through some of the points that I've seen in using this and testing it out, and then go give you an opportunity to see some of these in firearms in the gun lock. And also we'll take and I'll show you how I have this set up for myself. So, but before we do that, please hit that subscribe button. It would be greatly appreciated. Second of all, every firearm here on this table has been checked and cleared. We do follow the 4 rules of firearm safety. And last but not least is ONNAIS did send me this this lock here for review, so I just wanted to give you guys a heads up on that. But let's go ahead and dive into this. I'll give you a few specs here. So this is the lock. It has a biometric fingerprint system that will hold up to 50 fingerprints. I've been very impressed with it. Even some of the other safes and trigger locks they've sent me, the biometric has been very responsive and everything else. And another interesting I found is I thought because I would be coming from a horizontal position to unlock it, I needed to do the fingerprint this way. But I found that it will work vertical. So it's not, I don't think it matters how you set the fingerprint up. It is reading it one way or the other. So that was something I learned in doing that with the fingerprint. But then you can see and hear, you know, how quickly that response is. And then it also comes with a numeric keypad for locking. It is factory set at 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. It does take a minimum of 5 numeric numbers and will hold up to a 10-digit numeric code. So that's another nice feature. This is where it's a manual lock. So once you put the firearm, and I'll show you that in a second, that is how you lock it in. And it will go around the trigger guard. And then when you press it, it releases it. So that's how you do it. It's a manual set, but then it's a new biometric release there. Another feature of this, it is rechargeable, and they do provide a code. And this thing weighs roughly 3 pounds. So it is a little pretty, it's hefty. Probably the biggest, most of this weight, and I think this was a little over, it was like 1.8, almost 2 pounds, and then this here is about a pound or so. So it's like almost 3 pounds total. So let me go ahead and get the box out of the way here. We don't need that. So those are the 2 parts you get. And then you'll mount this on the wall, and then this slides in to it and it holds it. And it's at a 45-degree angle, so you're able to access everything. One of the things, and my opinion is, I feel like this should somehow lock into the base. I think there should be some manual locking mechanism so when it goes in, it snaps in and it's there. And because I've a couple times I've tested and I feel like this is starting to slide out when you're trying to release the gun. So if it was locked in there, you wouldn't have that issue. And especially when you're in a stressful situation and you're trying to get this firearm out, you know, all of a sudden you feel this is coming loose, you know, that's seconds that you could, it's taken away from unlocking it and getting that firearm, you know, for your use. So that's one thing I would say about this is you know, and I did mention that. I asked them, I said, should this lock? And they said no. So, but I think that's an improvement that I could see them doing, is having that. So it just locks in, and it doesn't need to be, you know, something where you need a key or anything. It's just like a manual that it just has some type of lever that locks it in place and holds it there. So that's that. So other than that, those are the things here. In a couple minutes, I'll take you and I'll show you how I have mine set up downstairs and all that in my bedroom. But here on the table here, I have a Rost Martin. This is a SIG 365 XL. This is a Canik TP9 Elite Subcompact. I have a Springfield Armory Echelon 4.0. This is also Canik. This is the TP9 SF Elite. And then this is the Girsan MC9 Disruptor. And then we'll go through here, and there's just a weapons light. So that's the one thing this will not take, is a firearm that has a weapon light on it, because it just doesn't allow the firearm, the trigger guard, to set in there properly and to lock in. So that is one thing it will not take. So that's something you need to think about. So the Rost Martin, it fits perfect, and it releases. And that's another thing that you need to think about, is in this, it's definitely not going to be a firearm that you have one in the chamber. You cannot, I feel like I cannot get a good release the lock and have a good grip and a good safe grip where my finger is off away from the trigger. I would feel more comfortable that if there was not one one in the chamber, just for, for safety reasons. You don't want to have an accidental discharge. So that's another thing to think about. This is definitely something that you're looking as a backup, and all of a sudden you're, like I said, I have mine in my closet in my bedroom, and all of a sudden I hear a noise and I need to grab a firearm, and I'm not too concerned, about timing, but I can grab this nicely, get in position and rack it. Here is the SIG 365, and this one also goes in nicely. As you can see, it's locked in there, and it releases. And I'm going to save the Caniks for last. Here's a nice size. The MC9 Disruptor definitely fits in there nicely and releases. This one is probably one of the better ones that you could feel like you get a good grip, but I mean, that's going to depend on your hands, what you feel comfortable with, but I would definitely recommend not having one in the chamber. And then here is the Springfield Armory Echelon, and again, this one definitely fits nicely in this, locks up nicely and all that. And whoop, look at there, I have a failure. But again, if you see, I cannot get a good pistol grip, a safe grip where I would feel, so I would that's the reason why I'm saying that. So there you go, it released that. So here is what I left the Caniks for last, and that is because the Caniks do not fit. I mean, if you jam it in there, they will, you can kind of get them in there to fit, but it will not fit. And I think the reason for that this will not fit in here is because of how they have designed their slide lock. So basically this lever here is what manipulates the slide lock. And I think that is what's blocking it, allowing it to sit in here properly. Even, like I said, this is the subcompact, and this is the TP9. It's a 4-inch barrel, and this one definitely will not. And so it won't even allow me to lock it. And with that, I'm going to assume, and I'm going to make assumption, I don't own a Walther PDP, but the Walther PDP and this are pretty much designed the same. They have, from what I can remember, they have the same type of lever for the slide lock. So I'm assuming the Walther will not fit in there. So this doesn't fit every gun. So you're going to have to be careful when you buying this and deciding what firearm you're going to use. Because initially I was planning on putting this as my backup gun in my closet, having this ready, but it's not going to work. So I'm probably going to move to my my SIG 365 XL as that backup gun in there. So those are things, you got to think about. And like I said, it will not take something with a weapon light on it. And like I said, this is just a backup gun that you need in an emergency. You're in, doing your stuff in the bathroom, brushing your teeth, and you hear a noise, and you want to quickly grab the firearm. So that's what I'm using it as. You can put this next to your nightstand, your desk, mounting it in there, and that's something else. Since this is very heavy and top heavy, I would be a little concerned using wall anchors. And you'll see my setup downstairs in my closet. I put a nice piece of a wood up on the wall and mounted that in there, and then I'll screw it in. You know, even if I was looking at it, putting this in my nightstand, I probably would get nut and bolts and washers, and then, you know, do it that way. I wouldn't use screws in here. Again, it's just top heavy, and you know, maybe one time, 1, 2, 3 times, it might be fine. But I just feel like, you know, if you're a little, you know, in a situation and you're tense, whatever, that you could pull that off the wall. I'm not worried about somebody, you know, getting the gun, because like I said, this doesn't lock, so that's not an issue. You know, if they kick it off the wall, they're going to get it. But again, this is locked up. So I'm not concerned about somebody breaking into my house and getting this. I'm more concerned if I need it in a situation, and then all of a sudden the wall mounts, you know, the drywall mounts come off and it falls. So that's the only reason I'm leaning, you know, explaining that to you guys. And, you know, that was it. I'm trying to think, was there one other thing I need to, I mean, that was basically it. I mean, those are the things I would do a little bit differently in this. And like I said, I would, you know, definitely would like them to see if they could provide where this snaps in or locks in. All right, guys, so let's go ahead down and I'll show you my setup and everything else, and I'll attach some of these firearms to it and get you guys a chance to see that. Of course, I won't be using the Caniks or anything like that. So let's go ahead down and I'll show you my setup. Okay, guys, so we are in my closet here, and I do have it mounted on the wall. And right now, with my t-shirts and all hanging there, you cannot see the gun lock mounted on the wall there. It is a little bit tight, so hopefully guys don't mind me if I get in the way of the camera and all that, but let me just try to get in here and show you guys everything. So if we pull this aside, let me go a little bit further. There you go. So that's how it is mounted. As you can see, I have that piece of wood there. It's not completely mounted. I just did a quick mount just for this video. But there's 2 screws right into studs and all that. And then everything is mounted there. Let me zoom in. This is the 365 XL and all that. Now, this is mounted for a right-handed person. I'm left-handed, but everybody else in my family is right-handed. My wife is right-handed, so I wanted to make it more convenient for them, you know. So let me go ahead here and see, very nice, very smooth, very easy to get. But like I said, I would not have one in the chamber. So as soon as you get it, well, of course I don't have I would rack it and then be ready to go. And now I'm pretty ambidextrous, even though I'm a southpaw. So that doesn't affect me too much, but then it gives me an opportunity to switch it over. So that's it. I recommend it, but definitely think about it, because it does not take a Canik. So, and I'm assuming if it won't take a Canik, it probably won't take a Walther PDP. Hey guys, so after my initial videoing of this and pretty much giving it a thumbs up, this product, the Onnias wall mount gun lock, was showing my wife it, how it was set up in our closet and all that. Was taking, pretty much used the fingerprint and was taking off, and I had the 365 XL on it, and it literally just fell apart. I mean, all of a sudden I could feel something was giving, and the next thing I know, as I was pulling the gun out of the lock, everything just fell apart. This bracket here came off. Every mount that it was screwed into is snapped, it's broken. These screws are not very big. So I don't know if you can see these, whoops, or not, but let me see if I can get them in here. So hopefully you can see that. So yeah, like I said, I had some reservations about it being top heavy, and I thought they could improve it by having it where it locked into the wall mount. You know, it didn't have to be, you know, something permanent or anything like that, but it definitely need where it would secure the, you know, the lock into the wall mount. So at this point, I could not recommend this. I would not recommend this. Very disappointed. I really liked it. And, you know, I was trying to think of other scenarios, because they were showing, you know, on their website of it being, mounted next to a desk. You know, if you come up to your desk and you accidentally, you know, with your knee hit this, I mean, I'm thinking that it would snap and then it wouldn't be working. Or they show it just on a wall. You know, if you come around the corner and, you know, you hit it by accident, you know, or even if you're vacuuming, you know, or something, you're doing something and you hit it by accident. I don't think, because this is so top heavy and these screws are so small, that it would break, the mount would break. So at this point, guys, I could not approve this, you know. Trying to be honest, I don't want to let you guys lead you guys on to something and then you're purchasing it and you're running into these issues. So guys, sorry about that. I hope you guys found this video helpful. Please give it a thumbs up and definitely hit that subscribe button and be safe, guys. All right, have a good one.